2026 is apparently the year of the analog, but is that also a privilege? Lately, I keep seeing this all over the internet, the return to analog. Basically, film cameras are back, flip phones have become aspirational, people are romanticizing notebooks, vinyl, handwritten letters, slow mornings, and this talk of digital fatigue, of reclaiming your attention in 2026, and 2026 finally being the year that we can all finally go back. Now, part of me understands this longing almost immediately. There is something deeply human about wanting texture again, weight, friction, proof that time has passed because something has aged or worn out or gathered dust. Analog is sort of like relief from constant notifications, from constantly being perceived, and from the sense that your life is being measured and archived. But the more I sit with it, the more uncomfortable the question becomes: is choosing analog a privilege? Because opting out is only an option when opting in was never really a threat. To romanticize slowness assumes you were never really punished for moving slowly. To praise simple living often assumes a cushion, which is either financial, social, emotional, that makes simplicity feel safe instead of precarious. And a film camera is charming when it's a choice, not when it's the only tool you can afford. A quiet life is aspirational when silence doesn't mean invisibility. There's a difference between slowing down and being forced out. The people who can log off tend to already have a platform. The people who can disappear already feel secure enough to be missed. For many others, being online isn't excess, it's access, it's work, it's survival, it's visibility in systems that overlook them entirely. So when we say we're going back to analog, who is the we? Still, I don't think the impulse is wrong, just incomplete. Because what people are really craving isn't film or paper or cassette tapes, it's boundaries. It's a pace where your worth isn't measured in outputs. It's a life where attention isn't constantly for sale. Analog has become shorthand for a world that doesn't demand so much of you all the time. And that desire makes sense. We're tired of being content, of being brands, of narrating our own existence. We want moments that aren't optimized. We want mistakes that will not live forever on the internet. And we want to experience something without immediately translating it for an audience. But here's the contradiction. Even the analog revival is being documented, aestheticized, and monetized. Offline has an online presence. And slow living has become fast content, and even resistance is marketable now. So maybe the real question isn't whether analog is a privilege, but whether choice is. The freedom to decide how visible you are, the freedom to be efficient without consequences, and the freedom to make things that do not scale. That's the luxury most people are yearning for. As a social media manager and freelancer, this thought almost always worries me. Do I make content in dimly light videos just to attract more clients? Do I start an agency only to realize that scaling isn't my dream, it's just what everyone else seems to be chasing? And sometimes the best creative work doesn't scale. It's slow, messy, and full of friction. It asks you to linger in uncertainty, to experiment, to fail quietly. Luxuries not everyone can afford. And the freedom to choose what matters to you, even if it isn't viral or neatly packaged, is a privilege. It requires time, energy, and a safety net that allows you to risk failure without existential consequences. Recognizing that doesn't diminish the work, it simply situates it within the context of the resources that make it possible. A few years ago, owning a smartphone wasn't given for everyone. Access to technology, connectivity, and the digital world is still uneven. And now society is pivoting back towards slower, more tactile, analog experiences. But here's the thing: choosing analog is expensive in its own way. It's a choice that often requires disposable income, leisure time, and the comfort of not having to worry about immediate survival. Not everyone can afford to slow down, to curate their life with friction, or to seek meaning in experiences that aren't otherwise efficient. So while the trend feels romantic, a return to slower, richer living is really a luxury. I don't think the future is fully analog or fully digital. I think it's selective and it needs to be intentional. I think it's learning when to touch the world with your hands and when to use the tools that already exist. I think it's understanding that slowness isn't moral superiority and speed isn't about failure. In short, the nostalgia and intentionality of analog living is beautiful, but it's also layered with the reality that many are still just trying to catch up with the basics. And the irony is that society is celebrating a return to simplicity not everyone can access. So maybe the goal isn't to go back at all. Maybe it's to move forward with more care, knowing that opting out can be healing, but only if we remember who doesn't get to. The analog isn't supposed to be about salvation, it's sort of a language. And like all languages, it matters who gets to speak it and who is still trying to be heard.